All right, let's go over some trends. Start off up here. All right, so one of there's a number of concepts in Wyckoff. One of them is shorting of the thrust, very important concept, and then the the new thrust that comes in, meaning the break on the downside. So what we see here, we had a lot of thrust in this part of the trend. I'll show you what the thrust. Thrust is this. This is thrust. This indicator right here is thrust. All right, where that blue and red, this blue and this, the blue is the up thrust on the upside, and the red is thrust on the downside. So what you see is, all right, you got a nice thrust after basing action, and shit in the middle, and then finally the thrust increases. And then it comes back down and tests and goes up. So we're going to see how this market turns. A lot of times you see this type of behavior, where as it's going up, 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 you notice here the thrust shortens. All right, so you can see you had a lot of thrust, then some thrust, then some thrust, and then it just shortened. So in this area up here, the thrust started shortening. And this is typically what you can do is just draw a line like that. So you see that the thrust is shortening. A lot of tops have this behavior. Lot. Where the thrusts, like let's say you have a downtrend, the thrust starts shortening, and then a big thrust comes in the opposite direction. So I mean, over here you see thrust shortening, and then this thrust comes in. I'm not saying it's very big, but it's relatively large. You know, it's the biggest that thus far. All right, so shortening of the thrust, break, and how I like to use this is with the other indicators, because I want to see other stuff also. I want to see this, right? Look at the volume there. It's the biggest volume in 24 waves, biggest price action in 13 waves. That's talking to me. That's saying, oh, you know what? Up here, they ran out of momentum. And right at the top, there was a minor up thrust. You just take the top here, and you'll see right there is a minor up thrust. Then heavy selling from the up thrust, heavy selling from the up thrust with good price action. So we got some thrust, and the market is confirming. Market here, you had 82 stocks decline in a period of 4 minutes, biggest in 9 waves, and there's volume supporting it. About 29,000 shares. So this is good selling, tap break. You know. And if you look very closely, you'll see that the original breakdown was right there. When the increase in volume right there. It's a minor increase in volume. It's not really too telling, but whatever. What happens is when it gets retested, this is the death blow right here. You see this, the big red? This is the biggest volume in at least 100 bricks. Just breaking the backbone of the trend. Down she goes. So this is like I don't know what to call it. It's just really heavy selling. All right. So then it all goes down. Now we watch. Ding, 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 ding. Thrust. You know, when it starts grinding like that, tap, tap, tap. Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. There's the expansion in thrust, you know, supported by stocks and supported by volume. Then, you know, it's just a matter of when is this thing going to come back, test and reverse. So in this case, it went all the way back, did a spring, and then rallied. Anyway, so let's go to more current action. We'll start with the end of the day. Break the trends. Alright, we'll start from up here. Alright, so what do we see? Market goes up. There's a minor upthrust right there. Oh, by the way, the shorting of thrust, it helps you identify upthrust in a way that typically you're unable to see. I don't know why that is, but it just does. Right? You'll be able to see, like I can see this little tap right here. See that? And then thrust right afterwards. That's valuable information, right? Because this is an attempted new high, an upthrust of the range, attempted new high in the relative trend, right? And then it reverses on heavy pressure, and then it taps and goes down. So it keeps doing that. When these thrusts expand, that's also a sign that, you know, supply is in. So pullback trades, very good. You get pullback, good pullback trades. Anyway, so it goes down, and over here, what do you have? You have a significant amount of thrust here, and then it shortens. All right. So the stocks are saying there was buying up here. This is where it gets interesting. This reversal here, which is showing pressure. You see when it goes all blue like that, that means the trend is turned. Blue. Right? So the trend is turned. Stocks have turned. 57 over here. Background 79 stocks rallied over here. 65 stocks and 57. Volume 23,000 shares. I mean, you guys just have to get in. All right, and you're gonna do that by looking at the high volume bricks. Tap into a high volume brick and goes up. All right. So over here, we're going to look for the same thing. Again, what I'm showing is how to incorporate the shortening of the thrust indicator. Right. What is shortening of the thrust? Shortening of the thrust is when the distance from high to high decreases or from low to low decreases. But what is it really? What is it measuring? What is it really? Shortening of the thrust is a momentum indicator. It is an indication of momentum. When the thrust shortens, it says there's a lack of momentum. A lot of times what people will do is they'll use RSI or any indicator, and that's fine. Do whatever you want, right? But in Wyckoff, the shortening of the thrust can be used, and specifically, it has a meaning. It's not, oh, it's just shortening of the thrust. No, what it means is that momentum is waning. Why? Because going from high to high is difficult. You cannot make a lot of progress from high to high, therefore there's a shortening of the thrust. Why? Because it's harder to make progress, which means that momentum, buying pressure and momentum has decreased. All right? So over here we see it's still strong. The thrust is still strong. And then it goes a little red over here and finally breaks. So was there any indication over here? No, there's no indication. I mean, there'll be times when the thrust expands too much, and that could happen when you get into an overbought indication. So typically what you'll have at the top is shortening of the thrust, but there are times when the thrust overshoots and it creates an overbought condition. So the key is it has to be after multiple waves. Then the thrust expands, and then you become wary because, as you know, if you have a lot of thrust and price spikes up, what do? You want to sell into those waves. So there's I don't see any lack of momentum up here. I see it overshot here a bit and set up, and there's a lot of volume over here, and the thrust declines. So it's a little bit of effort reward. Other than that, nothing really. So this top is a little challenging to see. So other indications will be very telling. For example, there's too much buying pressure over here, so it goes a little wild. Where you have too many stocks, 202 stocks, and then finally you have that red break on increased volume. So that immediately, when it's all red like this, what's going on? Distribution. 21,000 shares down, 13,000 shares up, 9, 7. What does that mean? When the down waves have more volume than the up waves, that's one way of forecasting direction, by the way. If you didn't know, now you know. All right, it's down. There's also selling pressure here where 57 stocks decline, which is the biggest amount in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 waves. And this last up wave only lasted 1 minute. That's a big problem. Big problem. Now what happens? The last up wave here was the smallest up wave in 26 waves. So it's going to break. Right. Why this didn't indicate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyway, so there should have been a big wave indication here, but whatever. So after that, we watch. There's some good thrust here, yeah, but it gets sold into. Thrust starts diminishing, overshoots a bit here, starts diminishing. Oh, what is this? And what I like about this, you just draw a line and see, oh, it's increasing. Right? So that means the trend turned. So here, you have to get ready right there. Why? You see the stocks are going higher. The stocks are going higher. We have big wave here, confirmation here, and volume already turned as well, making a new high right there. So now you have thrust, you got supported by market breadth, supported by volume. Market breadth meaning the stocks, underlying stocks, and volume and trend. So goes up, until these minor attempts to go high, which cannot go high. Why? Because there's a shorting of thrust, the volume diminishes, momentum diminishes, and then you have big selling on the way down, supported by stocks, supported by volume. You go all red. What does that mean? Downtrend until it's thrust. So that might be the change in trend. Anyway, the point of this is not to go over trend, all these trends, but the point of it is to understand how to interpret a story and how that story will be the story of a trend change. So how do you know how a trend changes? I'm showing some approaches here. One is, obviously shortening of the thrust. A lot of times there'll be shortening of thrust or too much thrust. All right. The shortening of the thrust means a lack of momentum, and too much thrust after multiple waves in a particular direction means it's climactic, or that it is going in an overbought or oversold position, and that's not good if you're with that trend, because it's an overbought oversold position. So both of them can be measured with a shortening of thrust type indicator. And then the second thing is, typically if you have an index and it's changing direction, in my opinion, just of opinion, if it's an index, you want to see if its components are changing. Meaning, if the index is going up, it should be supported by its components going up. If it's going down, it should be supported by its components going down. And if it's going up or down, it should be supported by volume. That way, there's clarity. There's clarity, yeah. So here, for example, I'm going to put this one down. You have thrust, you have selling pressure, selling pressure. So thrust, selling pressure, selling pressure. Now just look for the entry. Over here, just wait, bang! Thrust, buying pressure, buying pressure. So it's like almost like I don't want to say checklist, but a checklist, right? So the market is confirming, its underlying components are confirming, and its volume, underlying component volume, is also confirming. So step 1, check 2, check 3, done. So that's enough of an edge, right? I mean, how much more confirmation do you want? The market is going, its underlying components are going, they're going on buying volume. Yeah, so for a judgment-based approach, this is good. It's very easy to understand. It's a 1, 2, 3, and it makes sense, right? Because if you have thrust, if I say shortening of the thrust is a lack of momentum, right? So what would be thrust? Thrust means you have momentum, right? So that when we have momentum, you have components, you have volume, must be an edge. Must be an edge. Right. All right, take care, and I encourage everyone to learn Wyckoff and stick with the basics. Don't go to all that nonsense you see in the online talking about some stupid shit like schematic, which doesn't work, by the way, because they don't understand the behavior. They just, whatever's being explained, it's just not understood. I don't even know what to say about it, but that's not Wyckoff. What you want to do is understand, first and foremost, price, volume, time. That's the base. Price, volume, time. Okay, now, next step. What are the behaviors related to price, volume, time? Okay, let's say you pick something like a climax. in terms of a climax, what is price volume time behavior of a climax? Well, the key component is volume of a climax. What about volume of a climax? It's exceptionally high. So in that way, you want to analyze each important Wyckoff behavior relative to these three criteria: price, volume, time, and then just find many examples. And that's how you develop tape reading, by understanding the behavior from the perspective of these three criteria, and then being able to see that, right? Like, for example, right here where it goes up on 7 minutes and 84, there's something. What do you think is going on here? It's getting ready to turn. Why? Big price, meaning 84 stocks, good amount of time, at least 7 minutes, followed by a slightly higher high, this buying pressure, followed by, supported by volume. That's meaningful. And what happens? You got a spring, right? Of that same area. So, all right, long story short, do whatever you want. All right, take care. Bye-bye.